Let's talk about some other reactions around the NFL that did piss people off, that made people so frustrated.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And it's two NFC East teams. No, not the Commanders, and no, not the Giants, surprisingly. Let's start with the Philadelphia Eagles, because this one's loaded here. The Eagles snuck by the Browns at home. They had A.J. Brown back. They had Devontae Smith back. Jalen Hurts played a pretty clean game. And yet, we're not talking about the win on the field, even though it wasn't pretty. It was what Nick Sirianni did after. And if you guys saw the press conference, Nick Sirianni essentially was talking to fans about he loves when they cheer. They're not fans when they boo. And I'll tell you what, we got two takes here. I think we start with Damian Woody on Get Up talking about this. He just went off on Nick Sirianni right here. So take a listen.
Think of that.
What's this clown behavior, bro? This dude is a clown. Like, seriously, you gonna seriously talk trash to the fans?
Your own fans.
Your own fans. Like, listen, people come out here and pay big money to come out and watch you put a product out on the field. When you don't perform well, they have every right to boo you.
Damn right.
And you gonna get all in your feelings because fans are booing you because your team stinks? Like, bro, come on. And then you brought up in our meet, like, oh, then you're going to bring your kids into the post game to kind of soften the blow from what reporters might ask you. This dude is a straight clown, bro. Like, I just don't have any respect for what this man is doing. Y'all barely beat the god-awful Cleveland Browns, and then you want to talk trash to the fans. Get the hell out of here.
So on the other part here, by the way, saying how bad the Browns have been, the Cowboys beat the Browns by double digits. The Commanders smoked the Browns just a week ago?
Yeah.
Right? So you don't feel good the fact that Cleveland, who can't score a touchdown with Deshaun Watson. What was that even? Like, they're throwing out quotes, Kevin, from Kevin Stefanski about Deshaun's still great. He's amazing, but isn't the numbers or something that it's just terrible for Deshaun?
Yeah, one of the worst graded quarterbacks in the last 20 years or something in terms of EPA and a bunch of other things. And there's all these questions about, is this really the Stefanski's decision, or are the Haslams pulling the strings and saying, look, we invested so much into this guy? So it's crazy, all these wild talks that are going on, but the Browns are in a tough spot.
So that's the Browns in a tough spot. Wild, dysfunction, terrible. The Eagles barely win this game, and then Greeny then finished it off here, giving you guys a little bit more perspective. Let's play his clip, and we'll react on the other side.
Good God, shut up. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't just not say this now. Okay, you do not in life get to choose the parts of things you like and you don't like. If you're not ready to be booed, then I'm telling you right now, don't be the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a job that people would give what would people give? Your dad was the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles for a long time. It was one of the proudest things of his entire life to his dying day, and so everybody would be. You know what? If your team doesn't play well, you're going to get booed sometimes, and if that's what you're worried about, then you're thinking about all the wrong things. Picking a fight with your own fans is the absolute worst thing a coach can do. You want to talk about not very productive? He's saying, well, I don't think it's very productive if the fans are booing us. How productive is it for you to be worrying about that when your team is barely beating what looks like the worst team in the entire NFL? So what I would say is, when the coach gets up there and says afterwards, well, I don't like it when they boo us, but I love it when they cheer us, you're basically telling me I only want the fun parts of this job and I don't want the tough parts. Well, that's not a real tough sounding reaction to me. So it seems to me they need a completely different attitude when it comes to that. And I'm not sitting here saying fire the coach. I'm saying the coach needs to look at himself in the mirror and say, what the actual heck was I thinking yesterday?
You got to have thick skin to be a head coach, a manager, or even if you are one of the best players in whatever league or whatever you do. And let's just take out sports. Whatever you're doing and you reach a position that's a job that's coveted, that people want, and you're more in the public eye, you're going to be up for criticism.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's just the reality of it. And if you don't like it, you're going to, well, tough shit. You're going to have to deal with it. And right now for the Eagles, that is a tough city. They expect and demand more success. And I'm cool. If your team's struggling, I'm cool with the Eagles, having struggles, right? That's fine. I think once you start to answer that question and talk about it more, and that becomes more of a conversation off the field, I think that's the problem that everyone's talking about. It's like, hey, man, John Harbaugh's not always the happiest with what's happening, and he probably hears all the stuff that's being said about, game management, what's happening. but John doesn't talk about it. He goes back to work, says how much he loves the fans, and he really embraces Baltimore. It seems like Eagles fans don't like Sirianni, and Nick Sirianni does not like Eagles fans at the moment here.
Yeah, Greeny said that he didn't want to say it, but I'll say it. The Eagles need to fire Nick Sirianni.
That was my line.
Should have talked first. Damn it. Yeah, Kevin. But they do. They should have done it this offseason, and they're paying for it. They had another talented roster, but it starts up top with the leadership from Sirianni, and or lack thereof. There's no accountability. It's pointing the finger to other people. It's whenever things go well, kind of like this conversation. When things go well, Nick Sirianni wants to let the world know that he's the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles and that he's doing all this stuff. He took them to Super Bowls. They're playing well. The second that things go wrong, he's yelling at fans. He's getting into fights with his own players. He's getting into arguments. You just see him frazzled on the sideline. And it's clear that that's not the leader Philadelphia needs, especially with that talented of a roster. So I feel like you had your opportunity this offseason. It's one of those classic things in sports where we're watching a team hang on to a coach 1 year too long. The writing was on the wall this offseason. He should have been gone.
Yep. This is exactly why I was saying yesterday that I think that the Commanders could actually win the entire division.
Yeah.
The Eagles are in shambles. The Cowboys are arguably the bottom 5 team right now in the entire NFL.
They're not going to win at home.
The Giants are the Giants. So, I mean, and you're right. The amount of talent on this team, and they can't seem to get their shit together. It's just that there is no other person to point the finger at than the head coach.
They fired their offensive coordinator last year and defensive coordinator. They got rid of them. They said, hey, that's it.
That's scapegoating.
And the year before, though, granted, they lost their offensive defensive coordinator, but for different reasons. They both became head coaches, one of the Arizona Cardinals and Gannon, the other one Steichen with the Colts, right? But so you got rid of it. You brought in then who they thought could help fix this. You have an arguably we're going to be generous here, but top 5 wide receiver, A.J. Brown could be top 3. Yeah. You have a top 5 running back, Saquon Barkley could be another top 3. You have Jalen Hurts, that's a top 10 quarterback, could be a top 5.
Yeah.
Right?
Devontae Smith,
one of the best. He's probably the best second wide receiver in the league.
Yeah. Between him and Higgins.
Dallas Goedert,
right.
Solid offensive line. Defense has, apparently they are good in the trenches, but they are not playing up to their standards. Whatever it is, it falls back on the coach or it falls back on the management here, which the Eagles are dealing with coaching. I think that's more evident. We're giving Howie Roseman a slide on this.
Hey, Howie Roseman put the players where they, brought the talent in. That's not on him.